Alright, you know what? Let's pause this clip right there. Now, by now, I'm sure you guys are probably wondering what's going on. Well, check it out. You see that guy right there on the sideline? That's D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell is supposed to be in the game right now. This possession, Minnesota played defense 4-on-5, and this was the result.
Lee, corner three, off the mark. Another offensive rebound for the Suns. Craig steps into a three and drilled it.
Early on, it has been that type of season for Minnesota. They have the talent, they have the potential, but the production, that just hasn't been there. Now, before we really get into the video, I have to give a major shout out to today's sponsor, PrizePicks. If you guys haven't tried PrizePicks, then you have no idea what you're missing out on. PrizePicks will have you glued to your seat watching the Hornets versus Lakers with no LeBron James. PrizePicks is a different way to play daily fantasy sports, except with PrizePicks, you're not competing against other people, it's just you versus the projections. And check it out, they're hooking it up on my channel, so if you use code COOP when you sign up or click the link in the description below, you'll get your deposit matched for up to $100. That's basically free bread, meaning that if you deposit 50, you'll get 50. If you deposit 10, you'll get 10. It's a great deal, and PrizePicks is a great way to make the games a whole lot more interesting. To play, all you have to do is open your browser or app and choose the projections you like, and then choose more or less for that projection. It's super simple, there are multiple ways to win, and it's fun. Guys, download PrizePicks today, play daily fantasy sports with me, and make sure you use code COOP when you sign up so that you can get that deposit match before it's gone. Things have been so rough in Minnesota that other teams are flat out calling out the fact that this team isn't moving the ball like they should. A few days ago, Devin Booker would flat out yell at the Wolves bench, "We play team ball. We share the ball." That's one of those insults that's more surprising than offensive, and honestly, sometimes those hurt the worst. At the time that I'm making this video, the Timberwolves have dropped 6 of their last 7 games, and according to StatMuse, are 0 of 6 versus 500 teams. The only team that is worse than them in that regard at this moment are the Detroit Pistons, who are 0-9. You guys know how I feel about jumping to conclusions this early in the season. With that said, I'd be lying if I said there were no real glaring issues in Minnesota. A common theme in my last Timberwolves video was the team, the coach, basically everybody admitting that this team just was not showcasing any fight. And well, guess what? In that regard, not much has changed. Part of me wonders what this team would look like if it still had Vanderbilt and Patrick Beverley. Part of me also wonders what this team would look like if D'Lo was playing solid basketball right now. At the time that I'm making this video, D'Lo is currently shooting 29.9% from 3. According to Dane Moore, this would be a slump that would go back to last season, where Russell shot 29.1% in the final 20 games of the season. So over the last 30 or so games, he's been shooting about 30% from deep. I know that there is still a giant section of Wolves fans that have not forgot about the struggles in last year's playoffs either. Look, players have shooting slumps, things like this happen all of the time. But when you are struggling from the field, you should be finding different ways to impact the game, which just has not been happening for D'Lo. Mind you that this guy is in a contract year, so he has all of the incentive to be playing at a high level right now. According to Windhorse, though this is a contract year for D'Lo, there were no plans to extend him. Darren Wolfson would go on to say that I think his representation reached out to the Wolves at one point, but it was not being reciprocated. This is probably a good time to bring up that, at least according to reports, that this team tried to trade D'Lo in the past. I love D'Lo's game and understand that he was a major part of last season's turnaround, but at this moment, it's impossible to ignore that something's going on with his play. I know for a fact that he's a much better basketball player than he's been showcasing. Guys, D'Lo has a lot of good basketball left in him. The question is, when will we see it? And perhaps a better question for the Timberwolves is that if you were to let D'Lo walk, what are your future plans at the point guard position? It blows my mind how this team could have simply traded for DeJounte Murray. If the Wolves traded for DeJounte Murray, not only would they have had to give up less, but they also would have gotten another guy that's capable of logging minutes at point guard and slowing down the opposition at the point of attack. Oh yeah, and you wouldn't have to worry about Ant saying things like this: the smaller we go, the better it is for me. Or I'm not dunking because everybody is in the paint. Guys, I think Ant's a beast and he has great quotes, but man, sometimes the body language just leaves too much to be desired. My current stance on the Gobert trade is that I like this guy, but I don't know if I like everything that was given up to get him. I definitely think that there's still a path to the Wolves being really good, but again, I think that even if the Timberwolves do become this really good team, that the move for Gobert was still very short-sighted. The way the Wolves use Gobert and Towns is very interesting. It's as if this team wants to spread their minutes out as much as possible, so this duo doesn't spend too much time together on the floor. Now, typically staggering minutes is no big deal, but it's hard to overlook the awkwardness of this duo early in the season. When Gobert plays, the defense is stronger. When KAT plays, the offense is stronger. When both of them play, it's obvious that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Already, Finch has displayed a willingness to experiment closing games without Gobert, which is what was seemingly happening against the Grizzlies until KAT fouled out. Now, not only was this team willing to close this game without Gobert, but they were also willing to close it without D'Lo unless there was some very late sub coming, which could have been entirely possible. Now, as much as I want to be optimistic, it just can't be good that this early in the season, that Finch feels the need to close games with two starters on the bench. It's not like there was somebody on the bench that was going off either. Nobody was hot. Finch said this about benching D'Lo to close the game. We were just looking for defense, somebody who could get into the paint. Just trying things at this point in time. The good news for many is that though D'Lo has struggled at point guard for a large part of this season, the reality of today's NBA is that you don't need a dynamic point guard to be good, so long as your best player is a good enough passer to keep the defense honest. The chances are you're going to want the ball in their hands anyways. While we've seen Ant's playmaking improve, I still don't think he's close to reaching his true potential as a playmaker. I wish Ant was afforded more pressure-free reps early in his career when it comes to playmaking, but if there's one thing that I've learned about Ant, it's that pressure is not going to break this guy. At this point, if I'm Minnesota, I'm continuing to give Kyle Anderson more minutes and living with the results. I've liked what I've seen from the point forward this year, and more importantly, he likes playing point guard also. To quote him, yeah, I've always been a point guard. It's always been my game. I feel I always get more confidence or play a little better when I've got the ball in my hands. Making decisions, playing pick and roll, having the ball in my hands. It's pretty tough for me to stand in the corner and be ready to catch and shoot. I feel like I can do it when I've got my rhythm or when I've got the ball in my hands, but it's tough for me when I don't. Now, I've been following this situation out in Minnesota closely, and I'm personally not sure that their coach could be more frustrated. With his team struggling like they have, his frustrations are completely understandable. According to Dane Moore, last season, the Wolves allowed opponents to get an offensive rebound on 28.1% of their misses, which was good enough for worst in the NBA. Well, coming into their game against the Grizzlies, they would give up 29%. Mind you that this is a team that just traded for Rudy Gobert this offseason. Though Rudy had a bad game on the glass against the Grizzlies, I'm not trying to blame him here. Anthony Edwards had a great point. We can't count on Rudy to get all of the rebounds. It's on the guards. Finch echoed a similar sentiment, saying a lot of the rebounds guys are getting on us are like 50-50 rebounds that come out to the mid-range. Those should be the ones that our guards should be able to get. We're not getting those. Guys, I would like you to guess how many rebounds D'Lo, Jordan McLaughlin, Jalen Noel, Taurean Prince, and Bryn Forbes had combined. If you guessed 0, you would be correct. When that ball is shot, it's like everybody is chilling, just like Anthony Edwards is right here.
Didn't like, but he really thought that.
I'm still in disbelief that Ant did not move on this play. If you're a coach, what do you do in this situation? You know what? Maybe it was just part of the play. Jokes aside, I still can't believe a team that starts 3, 6'10" or taller guys is struggling on the glass. There's so much to like about Minnesota. I mean, they got guys like Naz Reid and Jalen Noel on the bench. I really do think and at least hope that this team figures it out, but first, they have to really want to. No more funny business like Rudy Gobert shooting threes. Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm GETLIKECOOP, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.